South India has always defended its own history. This cradle of Dravidian culture has a rich and centuries-old past of competing dynasties and empires, and the interwoven influences of traders and conquerors who landed here from the open seas. The arts and traditions are very much alive. The landscapes are extraordinary. No traveler remains unmoved by the temples and palaces. For those in search of spiritual nourishment, South India should allow them to attain a contemplative state for the rest of their life. Overflowing with vitality, excitement, amazing India will offer the visitor numerous fabulous experiences. In Kerala, India changes and adopts a more peaceful rhythm. Locals take their time and talk to foreigners. Kerala is famous for its unfailing hospitality. This land of abundance has attracted traders and adventurers for centuries. Kochi, formerly known as Cochin, is in fact a multitude of islands and peninsulas. It is easiest to go from one neighborhood to the next by boat. Fort Cochin is the historical heart of the city, the most attractive part. It's a charming place to spend a few days, discover the region's history, visit the art galleries, and appreciate the passing of time and the hospitality of the locals. This world is totally geared to the sea. At the entrance of the backwaters, the Chinese fishing nets are the major attraction in Fort Cochin, a suburb of the metropolis Cochin. Between 1350 and 1450, Chinese traders introduced them here. Approximately 30 Chinese fishing nets line up along the river's promenade. These wooden umbrella-like ribs are attached to an approximately 30-meter-high mast and set in the water at low tide. At high tide, 4 men at least are needed to maneuver the cantilever. Unfortunately, with modern fishing techniques, these nets have become less profitable. At low tide, smaller fishermen take over. Their nimble net-throwing technique requires perfect dexterity and patience, often for meager results. There are less and less fish here, and they are increasingly small. Professional fishermen can no longer live off their catch alone. Cochin lives to the rhythm of the tides. Some fish is sold directly on the docks, but most of the catches belong to large trawlers that scour the coastal waters. The city has preserved the charm of its colonial past, its 5-century-old Portuguese residences and dilapidated vestiges of the British Raj. The result is an unusual blend of medieval Portugal, Dutch, and British countrysides, transplanted on the tropical coast of Malabar. The former English presence is still represented here. Cricket is played in the shade of century-old trees. Built in 1503 by Franciscan monks from Portugal, St. Francis was the first church constructed by Europeans in India. The imposing Santa Cruz Basilica was erected in 1506. The present one is much more recent as the edifice was rebuilt in 1902. In the south, most Indians are Hindu. Official statistics don't reflect, however, the reality of the blending of cultures that has developed during the last centuries. Unofficially, less than 8,000 Jews still live in India, most of them in the south. The first Jews arrived from the Middle East starting in the 1st century. They mainly settled in Cochin, where synagogues and Jewish trading shops can still be seen. A beautiful synagogue still exists in the area around the fort. Destroyed by the Portuguese in 1662, it was rebuilt 2 years later when the Dutch conquered the city. It is located in the heart of Jewtown. In other words, the captivating Jewish quarter near the harbor, also the business center of the spice trade. The Muslim area is also a very old part of the city. One goes from one world to another by changing neighborhoods. Conflicts between religious communities are to blame for numerous bloody episodes in India's history. But tensions between Hindu and Muslim are clearly less fragrant in the south, where communities respect each other and live together without problems. In the past, the spice trade brought wealth to the city and its traders from around the globe. To this day, it has remained a major activity. Many small shops in these crumbling buildings release the aromas of ginger, cardamom, cumin, saffron, and cloves. At the back of the courtyards, the aromas blend with the incessant activity of couriers who leave the wholesalers' depots heavily loaded. In the cuisines of South India and the Indian subcontinent, among the best in the world, dishes always include spices. The Indians also love peppers. Numerous varieties exist, and it isn't necessarily the largest that is the most dangerous. The spice trade was one of the first major worldwide markets. It attracted many foreigners who came here to set up companies. Their presence explains the various religious denominations still found here. During the day, Indians drink a lot of tea, especially chai tea. Vendors on foot prepare and sell this milk and sugar tea all day long. In the land of spices, cardamom and cinnamon give the chai its characteristic taste. At nightfall, candles are lit before a kalari, a gymnasium, school, and temple all in one. Its construction follows traditional rules. Rectangular in shape, the kalari is always oriented from east to west, with Hindu divinities represented on each corner. The Kalari Payat masters teach their art in this sacred arena. It is in fact an ancient discipline of martial training. Some even consider it to be the most ancient of the martial arts. Its origins reach back to the 7th century, when several princely states of the region regularly confronted each other.
It is a tradition because if you are practicing this type of soil, you cannot get any skin disease, nothing. It is like, that is the tradition. This mud is very different. This mud is very different because they can naked food, you can into the kalari. Don't worry, it is a medicine.
Kalari Payat uses numerous ancient weapons in perfectly organized and codified choreographies. It combines art as well as combat techniques. Cochin livens up to the rhythm of the ferries that remain the most practical means of transportation to go from shore to shore and avoid traffic jams. You can easily reach the main neighborhoods and peninsulas surrounding the city. On these ageless boats, captains must navigate among giant cargo ships entering and leaving the harbor. Scary moments are guaranteed. On Vaipin Island, one of the islands around Kochi, life unfolds at a different rhythm. The noise and crowds of the hectic city seem far away. Small fishing villages dot the perimeter of the island. Here, too, the same ancestral fishing techniques are used. When the tide is too low and fish not abundant enough, the special Chinese nets are laid to rest. The men don't hesitate to throw other ones. On the coast, the paradisiacal beaches welcome sun lovers. It may surprise foreign visitors, but the Indians do not bathe for pleasure. Entire families come down to the water banks and immerse themselves fully dressed. The significance of this ritual is sacred. Like religion, the family is at the core of Indian society. It is inconceivable to still be single between the ages of 25 and 30. The family remains the cornerstone of rural and urban societies. Alleppey, a miniature Venice in the heart of Kerala, has shaded streets surrounding a network of canals that flow into the region's main waterways. This pleasant commercial town still displays beautiful examples of Keralite architecture, allowing you to revisit the colonial past of the region. The ancient residents still house many artisans. But above all, Alleppey has remained the departure point to wander through the backwaters on houseboats. In the past, these old boats used to transport rice. Today, they are used to explore this fabulous world. A visit to Kerala would not be complete without spending time navigating on these backwaters, a vast network of lagoons, lakes, rivers, and canals that spread far into the land. The jewel of South India, these backwaters meander their way through the state of Kerala. These rivers, canals, and lagoons feed into an almost infinite succession of paddy fields and coconut plantations. Once in a while appears a duck colony raised by the locals of the backwaters. The houseboat has become the best means to discover the interior of the Kerala coast. Slowly gliding along the peaceful canals lined with coconut trees, the splendor is unending. Meeting the villagers or sleeping on the water far from tumultuous India will remain a wonderful experience. Villagers live on narrow strips of land reclaimed from the sea. They manage to raise cows, hens, pigs, ducks, and plant tiny vegetable gardens. The shallow lakes are surrounded by palm trees and punctuated by Chinese fishing nets. Along the canals, copra, the kernel of the coconut fibers, and cashew nuts are being loaded onto boats. The uninterrupted traffic is a manifestation of the intense activities of this world on water. Obtained by weaving coconut fibers, the fabrication of coir is a well-known, long and fastidious activity. But this craft is a small source of income for families. Here, the visitor enjoys the relaxing atmosphere, but for the locals, the backwaters is a place to live and work hard. At the end of the main harvests, a priest goes from home to home to bless the rice and thank the gods. The animist religions blended with Hinduism. The villagers often have their own faith. They express it by worshiping gods that are traditionally closer to them and concerned by the happiness and immediate prosperity of their community. Quickly going from family to family, the priest continues to give his blessings. No house will be forgotten on the peninsula. The drums of Kerala are tradition in this region. These formations play during major events or manifestations, as here in front of a temple in the suburbs of Kollam. These rhythmic numbers require tremendous physical strength. Every single drummer usually is totally exhausted at the end of his performance. Further south, Varkala remains a wonderful place with its strip of golden sand, its spectacular cliffs, and view of the setting sun. Every year, the Velayani Devi temple organizes a spectacular celebration, the Kolyako Dikubali, with the procession of 50 elephants dressed in full regalia. In India, elephants are particularly respected animals, some of them accomplishing sacred functions inside the temples. The jovial Ganesh, with its elephant head, is the god of knowledge and intelligence. He eliminates obstacles and is the patron of scribes. India is one of the rare countries in the world where social and religious structures have lasted over several thousand years. The traveler interested in religious edifices will be fascinated. Prior to praying, the worshippers purify themselves in a pool at the foot of the temple. Varkala is a temple city, dominated by the Janardana temple. Rising in its multicolored splendor, its access is prohibited to non-Hindus. On a beach near the temple, ceremonies are organized 16 days after death. During this ritual, a family member carries the ashes of a deceased 16 days after his death. Once the ritual is over, the family may pour the ashes in the water. The tide will sweep them away. Sivagiri Moot is the ashram devoted to Sri Narayana, who was the most venerated guru of Kerala. Thousands of worshippers visit this ashram every year. Those wishing to study meditation and philosophy may stay here. The ashram often welcomes weddings. The ceremony consists in a simple prayer in front of the temple. The priest receives the mutual consent of the couple and proceeds on to the exchange of the rings. The religious ceremony usually doesn't last more than 10 minutes. Trivandrum, the capital of Kerala, is built on 7 low hills. A few meters from the main street, polluted by insane traffic, the visitor will discover a peaceful city that preserves the traditional charm of Kerala. The 260-year-old Sri Padmanabha Swami Temple is the spiritual center of the city and its ancient guardian. Its main entrance is a door tower 8 stories high. South of the city, in Manilthiram, an important community of fishermen live along the beach. At sunrise, they leave in groups. Using a big boat, they spread an enormous net which they'll bring back on the beach with the strength of their arms. Luckily, the ocean is calm today, but during the monsoon season, the waves often exceed 2 meters, causing boats to easily capsize. The net is thrown close to the beach. The long and extenuating work to bring it back then begins. The youngsters head for the waves to loosen the ropes from the sand and try to maneuver the net. To encourage themselves and forget the heat and difficulty of the task ahead, the fishermen chew betel nuts that redden their teeth. This difficult fishing technique doesn't always yield a spectacular result. For the month of April, it is far from a miraculous catch. They will have to wait until the end of June and the beginning of the monsoon to find waters richer in fish to fill their nets. As soon as the fish are taken from the nets, the women jump into action. They will organize and supervise the sales. They will then prepare the fish. Given the season, it will be fried. The nets are then reloaded onto the boats. The fishermen will repeat the same maneuver 3 to 4 times that morning. Kerala is the native land of Ayurvedic medicine. According to Ayurveda, the world possesses a natural order and equilibrium. We have 3 doshas, or humors: Vata, air; Pitta, fire; Kapha, water. Illness is the consequence of an imbalance between them. Ayurvedic treatment aims at re-establishing this equilibrium and consequently health by applying 2 main methods: panchakarma, interior purification techniques, and massages. An occasional Ayurvedic massage is certainly relaxing. However, only a longer treatment lasting a minimum 15 days will offer beneficial results. The process is supervised by Ayurvedic doctors.
Supervision, we are preparing our own pharmacy. No chemicals. We are not adding any chemicals. Pure herbal medicines. No side effects.
Ayurveda is an ancient science of medicinal herbs and holistic care, using treatments based on plants. The techniques of Ayurvedic medicine are taught here. Treatment is administered in clinics, hotel resorts, and schools. A few kilometers from the Ayurvedic center, this laboratory manufactures medicinal substances based on plants. The principles of Ayurvedic medicine has no doubt been known for centuries prior to being described for the first time in the Vedas, 2,000 years ago. Knowledge of plants and pharmacopoeia is also very ancient. Oils, creams, or ointments are prepared by either being cooked, distilled, or macerated. Leaving the coast behind, we head for the western part of the Ghats mountain range that crosses part of the country over 140 kilometers. After the humid heat of the plains, Munnar is a pleasant place to stay with its mountain scenery, steep peaks, meticulous tea plantations, and invigorating air. Several of these tea plantations are the highest in the world. The city of Munnar in itself is noisy and neglected. As soon as the visitors start to climb, they once again face these enchanting sceneries. The main reason to visit Munnar is to explore these rich green hills. People work in the plantations practically every day. The most important ones belong to the state. Depending on the tea quality, the harvest is done mechanically or by hand. There again, depending on the vintage, one will only pick the extremity of the shoots by removing the youngest leaves to obtain also younger teas. Even at this altitude, the heat climbs quickly and the picking soon becomes grueling. If the culture of tea is a major resource in the Ghats, 60% of the medicinal plants also come from this region. The Ghats are a true oasis of biodiversity. Originally from Kerala, Kathakali is one of the most famous styles of classic dance drama in South India. The long preparation of the actors complies with strict rules. Makeup, fantastic costumes, hairdos, and meditation transform the actors, physically and mentally, into the heroes and demon gods they will interpret. Percussions and songs accompany the actors who tell the story with precise gestures or signs using their hands and facial expressions. This theater generally draws on the great Hindu epics for inspiration: Ramayana, Mahabharata, and the Puranas. The themes are classic: vice and virtue, fragility and courage, poverty and prosperity, war and peace. Further south in the Western Ghats, the Periyar Wildlife Sanctuary spreads over 777 square kilometers and includes an artificial lake. Created by the British in 1895, it has buffaloes, sambars, or large deer, wild boars, langurs, more than 1,000 elephants, and approximately 100 tigers. Due to the altitude, there are highly appreciated coffee plantations in Kumali, the main city of the region. All kinds of spices are also grown here, especially cardamom. There are beautiful spice gardens a few kilometers from Kumali, such as the Abraham Spice Garden, where this passion had been handed down within the same family for more than 50 years.
For growing the cardamom, we want to the plant want to be about 1,000 meters above from the sea level. So these hills are called cardamom hills. Only in the cardamom hills, this cardamom and this particular all the varieties of spices is grown. No use.
This garden awakens all your senses upon discovering rare peppers, forgotten fruit varieties, vanilla, and coffee plants. All the natural riches that grow in this region can be observed in this amazing setting. Our journey continues. Along the rivers, villagers pursue their usual activities. Fish is a dish appreciated in the mountain regions. Here, it is dried and smoked, strictly for connoisseurs. On the other side of the Ghats mountain range, Madurai is one of South India's most ancient cities. A town of teachings and pilgrimage, Madurai was already famous during the 4th century BC for its spice trade. It is also the seat of the Sangam, the Academy of Tamil poets, whose works celebrate Madurai's beauty. At the heart of the old city, the Sri Meenakshi Temple is a particularly marvelous example of Dravidian architecture with its gopurams, or gateways, covered with a profusion of colored divinities, sacred animals, and personalities. In a state of excitement from dawn to dusk, it permanently attracts amazing crowds. 10,000 pilgrims and visitors come here every day. Near the foundations of the temple, the activity of tailoring shops never stops. In 1921, it was in this ancient cradle of textile production that Mahatma Gandhi decided only to wear skadi, a fabric woven by hand. 1.5 kilometers south of the Sri Meenakshi Temple, the Indo-Muslim palace of Tirumalai Nayak was built in 1636 by the monarch of the same name. Today, only the entrance, the main hall, and the dancing hall remain. The rectangular courtyard with a celestial pavilion are a testimony to the past splendor of this secular edifice, considered one of the most beautiful of southern India. Five kilometers from the ancient city, the surface of this vast sacred pool almost equals that of the temple. To return to the temple, it is worth making a short detour through the vegetable market of Madurai and getting lost in the labyrinth of animated narrow streets. Let the sense of these aromatic plants and vegetables guide you and take the time to observe this exuberant lifestyle and facial expressions that transform this market into an indescribable open-air theater. Leaving the city, heading south, we discover the Padmanabhapuram Palace. With its sculpted ceilings and polished wooden beams, it is one of the most beautiful examples of traditional Keralite architecture. Built in teak and granite, it has rosewood ceilings sculpted in floral patterns. Chinese-inspired screens and wooden floors so polished, they take on a shiny black color. Several buildings go back to 1550. Following the extensions built by successive monarchs, it became a fascinating ensemble of 14 palaces. It is Asia's largest palatial complex built in wood. In the past, it was the residence of the dynasty that reigned in Travancore, a princely state that included part of Kerala. The palace houses ancient statues. Several are representations of Krishna during the 6th century. By pursuing our journey toward the southern tip of India, the pool of the Trivandrum temple is surrounded by a charming community of small houses. In the past, springs or rivers fed into the pools. Today, in most cities, the replenishment of the water supply is much more unpredictable. Once again, the temple is the result of fastidious work in terms of decoration and symbols. It's the center of the city and is often used as a platform by politicians who try to capture the attention of passers-by. Kanyakumari is located at the extreme tip of the Indian subcontinent, where the waters of the Gulf of Bengal, the Indian Ocean, and the Oman Sea meet. Among the Hindus, it is considered a sacred city. Pilgrims come to visit the temple and bathe in the holy waters. Here, watching the sunrise is a religious tradition. The terraces and rooftops of the houses, as well as the extremity of the dike, are regularly invaded by worshippers. Dominating the tip, the Kumari Amman temple attracts numerous pilgrims. According to the legend, the Devi Kanya defeated the demons all alone, returning freedom to the world. Here, the men must take their shirt off as a sign of respect for the goddess. On the beach, the worshippers are taking their ritual bath. Vivekananda Rock Memorial stands on an islet 400 meters from the coast. It was built to commemorate a spiritual teacher who came to meditate here in 1892 prior to becoming one of the greatest missionaries of the country. Facing it, on another rock, the statue of the Tamil poet Thiruvalluvar, approximately 40 meters high. Once around the tip, we head up the eastern coast to reach another peninsula that leads to Rameshwaram. Rameshwaram spreads over an island in the Gulf of Mannar. In the past, the city was a major harbor for ferries between mainland India and Sri Lanka. The decorum here is more tropical with its fishing villages and peaceful atmosphere that spreads to the edges of a turquoise blue sea. Rameswaram is a major Shiva and Vishnu pilgrimage center. According to the legend, the Lord of Rama worshipped Shiva here. In the heart of the city rises the Ramanatha Swami Temple, one of the largest in the country. Its construction was started in the 12th century. The imposing 53-meter-high Gopuram, or gate tower, was built during the late additions to the complex. All of India meets here, from sophisticated city dwellers to Rajasthan villagers in colorful clothes. This extraordinary Dravidian-style temple is famous for its 4 magnificent corridors lined with finely chiseled pillars. The worshippers move ahead in these long corridors along the statues of the gods of the Hindu pantheon. The pilgrims are sprinkled with holy water. Its freshness is greatly appreciated. The worshippers award this particular curative virtues to the 22 wells of the temples. The pilgrims bathe and drink water drawn by the Brahmans. The number of wells corresponds to the number of arrows in the quiver rama used to make water arrive on the island. Regardless of their social rank, from the rich Delhi banker to the peasant from the Ghats, everybody shares the same simplicity. We continue our trip east towards the Tamil Nadu state, the land of the Tamils and the heart of South India. This is the cradle of Dravidian culture. Here, the peasants usually spread their harvest on the road to take advantage of trucks going by to thresh the grains. A little further north, in the Chettinad region, with its capital, Kanyakumari, rich families still live in sumptuous palaces. Chettinad is the land of Natu Kotai Chettiars, a prosperous community of bankers and businessmen. Today, many of these families live in the United States, in Singapore, or Malaysia. Most of these luxurious and extremely gracious residences were built in the 18th century. Chettinad is also famous for its refined cuisine. For breakfast, they serve delicious food using rice flour.
Same like the pulipaniyaram. 3 quantity of rice and 1 quantity of lentil, urid dal. First of all, we can soak the 1 hour dal and rice. Then only dal only make a very creamy consistency. Then rice only I make the grinding chorus. That's why the idli will come very soft. Then fermentation 6 hours. After I will use first steaming.
Rice is unquestionably the star cereal in South India and served with almost every meal. The soil here even remains humid outside the monsoon season. The young shoots must be planted by hand. Most of the time, the women are responsible for this lengthy and fastidious work. India is the second producer and consumer of rice in the world. A majority of the population is grown here in the south. Our discovery of the Tamil Nadu state continues with a stopover in Tanjore, often called Tanjore. This pleasant city is famous for its sumptuous temple of Brihadishwara, included in UNESCO's World Heritage List. It's the jewel of holy Chola architecture. Built on a vast terrain, the temple has several large halls and pillared sanctuaries. Contrary to most temples in South India, where Gopuram is the highest edifice, here, a 13-story and 66-meter-high temple tower overlooks the sanctuary. Its original golden roof protects a lingam 4 meters high and 7 meters in circumference. The monument of the royal palace cannot be missed. It is a genuine labyrinth with large corridors, vast halls, watchtowers, and shaded courtyards. It was partially built by the Nayak from Madurai around 1550. Today, the passageways protect an open-air museum. The sculpted wood ceilings are absolutely extraordinary. Pushing eastward, our journey is punctuated by visits to yet more temples, marvels of Hindu religious art, such as the Gangai Kondai Cholapuram that majestically surges from the plain. The enormous Nataraja temple in the Chidambaram is the most famous. This temple is a masterpiece of Dravidian architecture and one of the holiest sites of South India devoted to Shiva. The temple has 4 large gopurams decorated with finely sculpted statues of Hindu gods. Numerous dynasties protected this temple, famous for its amazing samples of Chola art. The pilgrims accomplish their usual ablutions in the pools, but at the end of the day, the locals also meet here in a friendly atmosphere. The Gopuram, a temple tower surmounted by a high pyramid, is characteristic of Dravidian temples. The choice of a site, the conception and building of a temple respect complex laws that use numerology, astrology, astronomy, and religious rules. The temple is a reproduction of the cosmos. At last, Puducherry, formerly called Pondicherry. This city is unique in South India. It has kept a certain atmosphere going back to the French East India Company, contrasting with the typical Indian environment and lifestyle. Families get together on the beaches, as in many cities along the coast. But as we near the center of the city, the atmosphere changes. French names appear on storefronts. The history of the French presence goes back to January 1673. At the time, a French officer bought a village called Puducherry from the Sultan of Jaipur for the French East Indies Company, thus creating the Epic of French India. In 1726, the city became the headquarters of French companies in India. There followed a period of prosperity where the French East Indies Companies equaled its British competitor. France gave Pondicherry back to India, but its former presence continues to be strongly felt. At the end of the day, the sun rays illuminate the facade of Our Lady of Angels, built in 1858. Founded in 1926 by the Guru, Sri Aurobindo, and a French woman called the Mother, this ashram dispenses spiritual teachings that claim to be a synthesis between yoga and modern science. In the Indian quarter, in front of a temple, we witness a strange scene. A sacred elephant blesses passers-by with his trunk. Many temples have their own pachyderm. He actively participates in rituals or patiently waits at the entrance flanked by his trainer, catching offerings or coins with his trunk. On the edge of the city, the old French colonial residences have been abandoned. Several will be restored to become hotels. Only a few kilometers from the center of Pondicherry, the traditional scenes of rural life unfold. Here, a peasant plows a field with a simple ard and a bull. Men and animals share the harshness of work in a suffocating heat. Behind, in the palm grove, Kalu is getting ready to spend a particularly hard day physically. He is sharpening his billhook before harvesting palm juice. His wife is preparing some chai tea for him before he climbs into the coconut trees. Kalu has a very dangerous job at 10 meters above the ground without any security. The height, however, doesn't seem to bother this tightrope walker with the qualities of a monkey and a bird.
Temperature goes up, it will become strong and it will become more impossible.
Depending on the work at hand, Kalu can treat 80 to 100 trees in one day. Kalu thus slips from treetop to treetop, going back and forth to harvest the toddy, the palm juice at the top of the trees. Part of it will be used to make alcohol, but most of it is needed for the production of cosmetics. After several hours spent at the top of the coconut trees, Kalu climbs down to join his family, obviously reassured. He brought back a few coconuts, whose refreshing juice is always enjoyed. On the outskirts of Pondicherry, the township of Auroville was inaugurated in 1968 with a vocation to become a town of international communitarian life, where everybody could live in peace. The spherical structure of the Matri Mandir is the spiritual and physical center of Auroville. After this little detour to visit the vestiges of a utopia, we reached Mahabalipuram, the last stage of our voyage. The city possesses incredible temples known for their stone sculptures. One of them is dedicated to Indra. Her mount, a delicately sculpted elephant, is situated outside the temple. This true-to-life-size masterpiece is considered one of the most beautiful elephant sculptures in the country. These unique temples in the shape of a chariot are called the 5 Rathas, or 5 chariots. 2 centuries ago, the British freed them from the sand. They owe their names to the heroes of Mahabharata. Most of these temples and cave sculptures go back to the 7th and 8th century. Majestuously raised facing the Bay of Bengal, the Mahabalipuram shore temple, eroded by the winds and sea, has kept its nostalgic charm. A last glimpse at the open sea prior to joining the crowd gathering on the beach. Behind us, a millennium-old civilization, and in front of us, the purity of the elements. In a sort of snapshot, the images, faces, and colors of this journey unfold in our mind. We let this mystery overcome us to touch the soul of South India.